होना, ये अपने आप में बहुत बड़ी बात है।
Hello and welcome. I'm Asavri Jindal and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top stories of this hour. 3 Russian MiG fighter jets reportedly violated Estonian airspace for 12 minutes. Estonia and its allies denounced the air incursions as reckless while Russia rejects Estonia's claim. Russian forces claim to have launched a cluster of strikes on Russian targets. These strikes reportedly targeted Ukrainian energy, transportation facilities, ammunition depots, foreign mercenaries. Russia has also gained control over 4 Ukrainian settlements. The state of Palestine is expected to participate in the UNGA's 80th session after a draft resolution was adopted by UNGA. The draft expressed regret over US decision to deny visas, revoke visas of Palestinian representatives. Amid rising tensions between US and Venezuela, US President Donald Trump says US struck a Venezuelan vessel in Southcom's area of responsibility. Trump says the strikes have killed 3 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel. In the latest effort to crack down on immigration, US President Donald Trump signs a proclamation imposing a $100,000 fee on H-1B visa applicants. This move could deal a significant blow to the tech sector while it relies heavily on skilled workers from India and China. US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping hold a phone conversation, a second one this year. The leaders reportedly discussed trade and TikTok. Trump said Xi approves the TikTok deal and that leaders are likely to meet soon. As workers wrap up Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show studio, many have taken to the streets to protest to the suspension of the show. The supporters include writers, actors, rallying in New York after, of course, in fact, they have denounced Trump's move as unconstitutional. Following the on-campus shooting of Charlie Kirk, Utah Valley University holds a vigil for unity in memory of Kirk. Utah Valley University President Astrid offered condolences and prayers. Meanwhile, the campus operations resume a week after the shooting. Our top focus this hour, developments that we are tracking very closely from the United States. Well, the Trump administration has announced a new executive order imposing a $100,000 annual fee on companies sponsoring foreign skilled workers, including, in fact, under the H-1B visa program, a move that could significantly impact the U.S. technology sector. Listen into what the White House secretary has to say.
What this proclamation will do is raise the fee that companies pay to sponsor H-1B applicants to $100,000. This will ensure that the people they're bringing in are actually very highly skilled and that they're not replaceable by American workers. So it'll protect American workers, but ensure that companies have a pathway to hire truly extraordinary people and bring them to the United States.
Well, the H-1B visa allows U.S. employers to hire foreign professionals in specialized fields such as engineering, science, and IT. The United States issues 85,000 of these visas annually, with nearly 75% awarded to Indian nationals. The new fee applies for each year of the visa's duration, which can be up to 6 years. The order takes effect on Sunday and may be extended beyond its initial 1-year term. The Department of Homeland Security has been granted authority to exempt certain individuals, companies, or industries from the new fee, though exemption criteria has not been specified. The measure is a part of a broader immigration crackdown under Trump's second term and is aimed at encouraging companies to prioritize hiring American workers. However, companies are now facing significantly higher costs to retain or onboard foreign skilled workers, prompting some to limit employee travel ahead of the fees implementation. In response to the sudden policy shift, JP Morgan Chase and Microsoft has issued urgent internal advisories to employees holding H-1B and related H-4 visas. In fact, JP Morgan's outside Immigration Council strongly advised all H-1B visa holders currently inside the U.S. to avoid international travel and those outside the U.S. to return before the deadline on September 21st. Microsoft issued similar guidance, urging H-1B and H-4 visa holders to return to the U.S. before the Sunday deadline and to remain in the country for the foreseeable future. The tech giant has also warned employees of potential travel complications and immigration risks if they fail to comply with the new guidance. Joining us at this point in time is Mr. Ross Feingold, political analyst, joining us live. Thank you so much for your time speaking to us on NewsX World. Well, reports indicate that 2/3 of the Silicon Valley tech workers are foreign-born. Like I said earlier, H-1B visas encouraged nearly 85,000 foreign nationals from the engineering, science and IT fields to join and bolster U.S.'s tech sector. Is this move going to cause more harm than good to the U.S.? What's your assessment?
It's too early to tell. The first hurdle here is a legal one because after this announcement by the White House, it's open to debate as to whether or not the executive branch actually has the authority to unilaterally impose this fee, or it has to be passed via legislation in the Congress and then signed into law by the president. So frankly, we're in a bit of a moment of uncertainty as to the actual implementation, keeping in mind that it certainly is possible that the president could ask Congress to revise the applicable laws to include this fee, and it might actually pass the Congress. There certainly Republicans in Congress would support the president in this, and they might be able to get a few Democrats to go along as well and pass such legislation. But it's certainly a fair debate to have insofar as would this reduce the number of foreign-born tech workers in the United States? Would that harm the U.S. tech industry? And certainly that's the position of the companies. Going back years already, there's been debates about this program, about the number of slots that are in the program, about the fees in the program, et cetera, et cetera. And the tech industry has always made the same point that we need the people, we need the talent. There's not enough people here in the United States to fill those jobs. And we need to hire qualified, very talented foreign-born people, many of whom come from India, as I'm sure people in the audience know. So that debate will thrash out in public in the coming weeks as the administration tries to implement this new policy.
Right, absolutely. I request you to stay on with us. We, in fact, have some more news coming in. The United States is on the brink of a government shutdown. On Friday, the Senate rejected a short-term funding bill that would have kept federal agencies open through late November. The vote was 44-48, with nearly all Democrats opposing and demanding for more funding for healthcare and Medicaid. In fact, President Donald Trump said Republicans want to keep the government open, but warned the country could very well end up closed for a period of time. He stressed that Social Security, the military and essential programs would continue, but many Democratic priorities could go unfunded. Listen in.
Continuing resolution in the Republican House today. It was an amazing vote, actually. It showed we want to keep things going and going properly. It was good for a lot of reasons. The Republicans want to keep government open. But in the Senate, we have 53 Republicans total, and we need 60 votes. That means we need Democrat votes. I want to thank Senator John Fetterman. He wants to keep the country open. And we have to remember, when you win the election, elections have consequences. So We'll continue to talk to the Democrats, but I think you could very well end up with a closed country for a period of time. And we'll take care of the military, we'll take care of Social Security, we'll take care of the things that we have to take care of. A lot of the things that Democrats fight for, which in many cases aren't very good things, will not be able to be paid. So we'll watch and see how they do with that. They'll have to handle their constituents pretty carefully.
Meanwhile, Congress has until September 30th to act, but the pressure is mounting with lawmakers now on recess. Let's in fact listen in to what Senator John Barrasso has to say.
Well, Republicans want to keep the government open, and the Democrats, based on what I believe is the Schumer strategy, is a shutdown strategy. It is their goal to shut down the government. The left wing of their party is demanding it, and Chuck Schumer is snakebit. He's afraid to do anything that they won't want him to do.
Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Ross Feingold. So I'd like to understand from you, what exactly are you making of the situation on the ground?
Both sides don't want to be the one who gets the blame for a government shutdown, especially as it'll be about a year before the midterm elections in November 2026. So they have that concern in mind. On the other hand, the Democrats have made it clear that they have certain priorities, and for now they're not willing to give in. And as you mentioned, a very high priority for the Democrats is to restore or maintain funding for certain healthcare programs, some of which funding was cut in the big, beautiful bill that the Republicans passed in July of this year. So this is a standoff, and it's the same situation in the previous standoffs that almost or did bring the government to a shutdown. And ultimately, one side or the other is going to have to blink first, and we don't know which side that will be. But ultimately, they do always work this out, and there's always going to be winners and losers politically, as well as for beneficiaries of different government programs. But ultimately, even if there's a closure, they will work out their differences at some point.
Right, absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX World, sharing your perspectives with us. We leave it there and shift our focus to some other news that we are tracking. Poland's armed forces have announced that Polish and allied aircrafts were deployed to secure Polish airspace after Russia launched airstrikes on western Ukraine near the Polish border. This heightened alert follows recent tensions in the region, including Estonia's accusation of Russia conducting a 12-minute unprecedentedly brazen airspace incursion. The incident has raised further concerns with NATO, which is already on edge after Russia's recent drone breach of Polish airspace. However, Russia's Ministry of Defense has denied Estonia's claim, stating that the MiG-31 fighter jets were operating over neutral Baltic Sea waters, more than 3 kilometers from the Estonian island of Venlo. Now, the Russian ministry has also insisted that the fight, which was heading from northwest Russia to Kaliningrad, adhered to international airspace regulations. Joining us on the broadcast is Major General Gigi Dwivedi, Global Strategic Defense Expert, joining us from New Delhi, India. So thank you so much for your time speaking to us on NewsX World. I'd like to understand from you, we're of course talking about what happened in Poland and of course what recently happened in Estonia. What exactly are you making of the situation as it pans out?
Well, Aswari, one thing is very clear. The tension is rising both vis-a-vis Poland and the other Baltic republics, and that cannot be denied. Now, whether these intrusions or incursions have been pre-planned, intentional or inadvertent, that is still to be decided. I think the jury is still out. But a couple of things merit attention. These repeated violation of airspace of neighboring countries definitely is seen as an act of hostility. And obviously, whether it is Poland or Estonia, they are concerned that these are not one odd instances, they have been repeated over a period of time, and therefore they cannot be brushed aside lightly. And they are well within the rights to gear up their defense mechanism. The second point is, why is Russia doing all this? That's a moot question, and that needs to be gone into. There could be a number of reasons for this. One is Russia possibly is trying to gauge the reactions of NATO and also how well prepared they are, how far Russia can go in such escalation. Well, these are yet to be conjectured, but definitely there is an angle of some intentional design behind all this. The second point is that we need to be watchful because such escalations due to miscalculation can actually go beyond a certain point, which can be proved quite fatal, or I would say quite destructive, because both sides in such situations are at the highest state of readiness, and any miscalculation can lead to a catastrophic situation. So I think that is wise on the part of Russia to keep off the borders or the airspace, and also for the NATO countries, particularly Poland, Estonia, and other bordering countries, to be very careful that miscalculation does not lead to further escalation. Aswari.
Absolutely, sir. Now, Russia's, of course, denied Estonia's claims. They have said that they were operating over the neutral Baltic Sea waters, more than 3 kilometers from the Estonian island. Do you believe that argument holds merit?
Well, the point is that if you want to avoid escalation, then you keep well off the designated either the air defense zones or the delineated airspace boundaries. But when you fly too close, then it becomes a matter of contest, because both sides can then contest that one side violated, other side denying it. So I think again, it's a provocation when you fly too close to the lay down airspace boundaries, and I think wisdom lies is that to keep off well away so that such dichotomy doesn't arise, because as I said, the armed forces are always in highest state of readiness, and any miscalculation can lead to a catastrophic situation. Aswari.
Right, so absolutely. I request you to stay on with us. We have some more news coming our way. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron has said that the United States is a very strong contributor and reliable partner on NATO's eastern flank during an interview with CBS as tensions in Europe rise over Russia's actions. Take a listen.
The U.S. has not contributed fighter jets to that new effort that was just recently announced after the drone incursions. The Supreme Allied Commander is an American, but does that signal something to you? Does that concern you that the United States isn't more muscular here?
No, I'm not concerned or worried about that. I want to say that the NATO Secretary General worked very hard, and we all gathered and exchanged information with the Polish Prime Minister and the Polish President in the hours right after this what happened. And for instance, UK and France stepped up and we sent fighters. But it's fine, we were in a situation to do so, and we are totally credible. But at the same time, look at what the US is doing on the eastern flank of NATO.
All right, still with us on the broadcast is Major General G.G. Dwivedi. So what do you make of the comments that have been made by the French president?
Well, undoubtedly, NATO without US would be, I would say, crippled. And NATO can only show its actual strength when the America is behind it. So this transatlantic partnership is there to stay. And I have no doubt that if and when time comes, they will deliver. The point number two is that America, of course, has been pressing that the NATO countries must contribute more significantly into the defense, and that has been actually the call, and that also had an impact, because most of the NATO countries have escalated their defense spendings and also the defense contribution. But the underlying point is that NATO and the America, they have a symbiotic relationship, and that have been time tested. and I'm sure this also will stand test of time. But within the NATO countries, you see, they are all coming to help out each other. Like France has committed to deploy the Rafales in uh, Poland, and also Netherlands has said that they will come to the help of Baltic republics. So therefore, within the NATO also, there is an effort that not totally be over-dependent upon America, yet while the American support is very critical, but I think within the NATO countries, there is now a understanding that they need to do some more heavy lifting than erstwhile or before the current times. Aswari.
Right, absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX World, sharing your perspectives with us. Meanwhile, we leave it there and shift our focus to some more news. Well, in a weekly report, the Russian Ministry of Defense has stated that Russia carried out 4 cluster strikes over the past week targeting Ukrainian energy, transport and military sites, including ammunition depots and drone training centers, according to reports. The Russian military also claims gaining control of over 4 settlements in the region of Donetsk, Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia. Additionally, the Russian air defense system had shot down over 1,600 fixed-wing drones. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Special Operations Forces have claimed a successful strike on a Russian logistics hub in Kursk, destroying ammunition depots and weapons storage. Moreover, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed ongoing counter operations in Donetsk, with Ukrainian forces strengthening defense in Kupiansk, where Russian troops have yet to gain control. Well, joining us at this point in time is Ms. Shruti Dasgupta, International Affairs expert, joining us from New Delhi, India. Ma'am, thank you for your time on NewsX World. I'd like to understand from you, what exactly do you make of the weekly report? Of course, there has been a lot that's happened in the past week, including attacks on major infrastructure.
Yes, you're completely right. There have been attacks from both sides of the front on infrastructures, basically targeting energy structures as well as military control zones. So the war continues on well into its 1,300 days, and it feels as if there is not, instead of backing off after every effort by NATO to create pressure points using a drone, alleged, as of now unproven, alleged drone incursions into NATO regions of Romania and Poland, and the latest one where they suspected violation of airspace of Estonia. So despite building these pressure points, Russia is continuing forth. It is the Western media tries to portray a particular perspective where they do not talk about how much of Ukrainian efforts have failed. They prefer to show them as the underdog of the fight, where every Russian incursion is repelled, and they are Ukrainians are the victims, as well as the Russians are the aggressors that are losing. But these particular reports that you and your news network are showing an unbiased reporting, where they're saying that Ukraine is getting enough help through NATO. They are getting enough, 1,600 drones incursion strikes towards Russia was sent, and most of it was struck down. There will definitely be 1 or 2 that will come through, or in fact more than that. And those are the ones that have actually hit on target, which have been confirmed by the Russian sources also, that they have hit Saratov, I believe, which is 600 kilometers inside the oil refinery there. And I think it was hit twice within this week by Ukraine itself. So there is an intensity toward the fight, which is increasing, and from both sides. And now I feel, because we know that the loss of life for Ukraine has been much higher than that has come from the Russian side, and they do not have as many men as Russians do to put on the line. So from my perspective, I feel that this is coming towards an end zone scenario, that either NATO will be pushed to use false flags and pressure points to enter the fight legally, or it is going to end up in Russia taking claim on whatever it has now it has, I think, progressed in the Donetsk region and has captured more in the Zaporizhzhia region and the Dnipropetrovsk region as well. So they are progressing. It's a meat grinder war. They're making slow incursions into the territory that they want to control and hold. So it is either an or situation. Either the war will see NATO, or Russia will take control and call it an even-Steven scenario.
Right, absolutely. Like you said, the Russian military has also, of course, they've claimed of gaining control of over 4 settlements. Now, of course, we know for a fact that the Ukrainian President Zelensky has confirmed an, in fact, ongoing counter-offensive. How does that exactly pan out?
But counter-offensives are there everywhere. Somewhere when initially NATO had, around 2023, the counter-offensives were more successful, and they did manage to free a larger part from the Sumy area, like the northern part of Ukraine, from Russian zones. But this time around, when it is coming from the eastern flank of Ukraine, we are seeing that they are not able to hold on. I believe they had made claims that the Donbas region would be impenetrable. They cannot win, and Donetsk would forever be part of, be defensible, and there'll be no part of it that will ever go down. And now we hear that more and more villages, more and more settlements are falling down under the Russian aggression. So Ukraine, though, keeps trying to showcase that they are winning, and if more money or more equipment is pumped in, they can completely defeat the aggression of Russia. The reports we see show that Russia is not that easily defeated, and they are still winning territory slowly, steadily in the meat grinder war, basically accomplishing their own narrative of ensuring that Crimea then gets connected by the 2 independent nations of Donetsk and Luhansk that Russia has signed off on. So they're basically building out, carving out new nations out of Ukraine, and I see Zelensky just basically posturing for the Western media, towing the narrative so that more and more funds and resources pour in.
All right. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX World, sharing your perspectives. Well, we leave it there and shift our focus to some more news coming in. Now, as the Utah Valley students and faculty are still grappling with the assassination of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk, on campus last week, the university is holding a vigil for unity in Kirk's memory. The Utah Valley University campus was closed for the remainder of last week and is slowly resuming its operations. The campus was closed before the vigil as officials promised heavy security for the event. Speaking at the vigil, University President Astrid Tuminez appeared to be proud of how the community has responded to the shooting and the scrutiny that has come after. Tuminez also extended condolences and prayers for Kirk's family. Meanwhile, ahead of Charlie Kirk's public memorial, there are security preparations that are underway at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and several other political leaders are expected to speak at the memorial. Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, is expected to speak. Earlier this week, she was named CEO of Turning Point USA, taking on the job once helmed by her late husband. Thousands of people are expected to attend the memorial service tomorrow. Well, this is all the time that we have. We will continue to bring you more news and updates from across the world. Stay tuned.